Once upon a time, there was a king who thought only of himself. He amassed great wealth by imposing high taxes on his people, who became poorer and poorer as a result. The king lived in a magnificent palace, while the people who built it for him resided in thatched huts and run-down hovels. His table was always laden with sumptuous food, while most of his subjects barely managed one plain meal a day, if that. The king didn't care about anyone else. As long as he had what he wanted, that was enough. One day, a hunter arrived at the palace gates, intent on teaching the selfish king a lesson. The hunter brought with him an enormous dog. The king, who was fond of hunting, was intrigued by the dog and welcomed them both into the palace grounds. But this dog was no ordinary dog. Her bark was as loud as thunder, and when she first barked, the noise shook the palace walls and terrified the king and his courtiers. The barking didn't stop with one or two barks. It continued relentlessly, making it impossible for anyone in the palace to hear themselves speak. Desperate, the king summoned the hunter. "Why does your dog make such a deafening noise?" the king asked. "The dog is hungry," replied the hunter. Immediately, the king ordered a large plate of meat to be brought. The enormous dog devoured it in no time and then resumed barking. Another plate was brought, and again the dog quickly ate it and began barking as loudly as ever. This happened repeatedly until the king, growing angrier, told the hunter to leave the palace. But the hunter stood firm. "Your Majesty, we have been sent by a power greater than you. We are here to stay," he declared. The king, unaccustomed to such defiance, was both frightened and perplexed. "Will nothing satisfy the hunger of your enormous dog?" he asked. "Nothing that is easy for you to give," the hunter replied. "Your Majesty, there are people in your kingdom who are starving because the food is hoarded by those who do not share it with the workers who grow it. This dog feels the hunger of every person in this kingdom who lacks food. As long as even one person is hungry, this dog will remain hungry and continue to bark." Hearing this, the king was more frightened than ever. It had never occurred to him that he had been wrong. He had always believed that his subjects existed to serve his whims. But now, faced with the unrelenting noise and the realization of his selfishness, he was forced to act. He called his wise advisors together and asked, "What shall I do?" The advisors deliberated and saw only two solutions. Either the dog must be killed or every hungry person in the kingdom must be fed. No one was willing to kill the dog, so there was only one option left. Everyone in the kingdom had to be fed. If you're enjoying this story and want to hear more tales like this, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more captivating stories. The king commanded, "Put all the palace servants to work at once. Bring out all the bags of rice, meat, vegetables, and fruits from the storerooms and gardens. Load them onto carts and distribute them throughout the kingdom until no one is hungry." The advisors and servants hurried to follow the king's orders. Soon, a long line of carts piled high with food left the palace and traveled to every village, delivering food to all who were hungry. Day after day, the carts continued their journey until every hungry person in the land had been fed. Finally, the enormous dog stopped barking and lay down quietly beside the king's chair. The kingdom was peaceful and the people were content. The dog remained by the king's side for several years, ensuring he remembered the lesson of justice. Occasionally, she barked to remind him, and each time the king was reminded of his duty to his people. Eventually, the dog was convinced that the king had truly changed. One morning, she stood up, left the palace, and went to bring justice to another land.